It is over a month now since the World Economic Forum for Africa was hosted in Nigeria for the first time in West Africa. Mr. Foluso Phillips, chairman of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, shares further on the takeaways from hosting the summit.
Well, the World Economic Forum for Africa was extremely successful. And what was more pleasing to us is the fact that the chairman said publicly that outside Davos, the WEFA that took place in Nigeria, in Abuja, is the best that they've ever had since the World Economic Forum started. And I think this is a great accolade. And he said this is despite the fact that he had a lot of pressure to pull out of the whole scheme and to sort of like shift or cancel or something. So he said he resisted, and he just thought that he would follow through what his heart was telling him, and he was glad that he did. So it was a very successful event. Secondly, I think that we must congratulate the team of the Nigerian Economic Summit Group, along with the working committee of the federal government, headed by the coordinating minister, Ngozi Ogojoyewela. Must congratulate them for a great job. Frank Weke, who led the NESG, did a terrific job, and the team at the NESG did so well. There was a lot of learning points for us as well. We know we hold our annual summits, and I think watching WEF in action was a great experience from a logistics point of view. You know, people worried a lot about security. All those things were taken care of, and we were glad that it went without any major mishap of any form. Of course, we continue to regret the situation with the children, our girls that are still away, and even at the WEF in starting off, we had to pay attention to that and had the moments of silence in prayer for the children that are missing. Now, coming back to takeaways, I think it's important to say that certainly for me, one major thing that I took away was that, first of all, Africa needs to continue to trade with itself. When you look at a continent with a population of 1 billion, somebody described that Africa will be forming a part of the world's humanity in future. 60% of the world's agricultural land production capacity lies in Africa. For many years, Africa has always exported its raw materials. And we're saying that all that is changing. We're saying that Africa must begin to trade with itself. Africa must begin to produce, must learn to add value. Our infrastructure has been geared more towards a trading continent as opposed to a producing continent, and that is why the infrastructure has been so poor. So we're trying to change all that and say that let us try and see how much production we can put in place. So you find also that the major issue about inclusion ties in with the concept of SMEs, and it's funny that it was a kind of a wake-up call for me as well to appreciate the fact that going back and looking at SMEs in the country and across the continent really form the engine of growth in any nation, because they're the ones that actually employ a greater percentage of people in the country, over and above government, over and above private enterprise in terms of the big corporates. So that was a major takeaway for me. The second thing was technology. ICT would liberalize the continent. ICT would permit the policing of the continent as people continue to use more and more mobile phones and continue to use the facility that they provided. A lot of examples were given of people watching their commodity prices, or even from a vigilante point of view. So many examples of how the power of ICT through mobile telephony has come to play. So I think that's another major thing that we need to pay attention to. Another interesting thing was that, and I think I passed the comment today, that Africa must stop having analog leaders and start having digital leaders, because we're living in a very, very digital economy. And I think from that point of view, it's saying the leadership has got to pay attention to the way Africa is being transformed to, in principle, a modern economy on the back of technology, on the back of mobile telephony, on the back of the fact that digitally we're being very, very connected as a continent. Agriculture, I think I've mentioned, it's a major part. Playing in the value chain that it offers and using it as a major driver of Africa's growth is something that we've got to sort of pay attention to as well. So there's quite a lot in there. but certainly looking at the different groups, the different discussions, the depth of discussions, the commitment, and the even emotional connectivity that took place during WEF. I think it was a wonderful experience, and one that was not just a talk shop as well. A lot of transactions went down. I think you might remember that the Chinese premier gave some major commitment, which really spurred many people to begin to think about how they would commit themselves to Africa.